This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Thursday, January 28th. This is Africa 54 Hour. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees, so our broadcast will look different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54 Hour. Former Central African Republic Seleka faction commander Mahamat Said Abdel Kain is making his first appearance at the International Criminal Court Thursday, facing accusations of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Said, 50, had surrendered to the court and had been arrested under a warrant issued under seal on January 7, 2019, relating to alleged crimes from 2013. According to the ICC, the arrest came against the backdrop of a state of emergency in the Central African Republic, with fighting between the country's army backed by United Nations, Russian and Rwandan troops, and rebels seeking to overturn a December 27th vote in which President Faustin-Archange Touadera was declared the winner. A judge for the court says there are reasonable grounds to believe that Said was responsible for crimes including torture, prosecutions, and forced disappearances and other inhumane acts. In the aftermath of Cyclone Eloise, which carved a path of destruction through Mozambique, aid agencies are warning that COVID-19 could spread among those who have been left homeless. Adam Reed has more.
In Mozambique's port city Beira, residents are trying to piece their lives back together. But aid agencies are warning that another threat has increased for the thousands left destitute by Cyclone Eloise. Crowded centres housing those left homeless by the tropical storm, some are sleeping tent to a tent with no access to water, soap or masks. And that's creating the perfect conditions for COVID-19 to spread, according to ActionAid. Marcia Penicella, project manager for ActionAid Mozambique, says there's an urgent need for basics, from food and water to shelter. Cyclone Eloise destroyed homes, ruined crops and displaced thousands in an area still recovering from Cyclone Idai nearly 2 years ago. Some 93,418 people were already displaced in 4 provinces affected by Idai. Espinola Caribe, head of the World Food Programme's Beira sub-office, agreed that COVID-19 is a concern, but said people had to be moved away from the danger. This was not a planned evacuation, he said. This was running for your life.
Adam Reed of Reuters with that report. French President Emmanuel Macron met with Malian interim President Bando in Paris on Wednesday. Ndo, who served as defense minister and used to be the Air Force chief, is tasked with presiding over Mali's 18-month transition back to civilian rule following a military coup. Macron recently said that France could adjust its military operations in West Africa's Sahel region. Diplomatic and military sources expect a partial French withdrawal to be announced by mid-February. France has more than 5,000 military personnel based in Mali and the Sahel to help counter militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, an involvement that is facing increased opposition at home and in Mali. Somalia's Prime Minister this month announced a 30% quota for women lawmakers chosen in February's indirect election by Somali clans. If upheld by the clans, it would raise the number of female representatives by 6%, but women groups see even that slight jump as doubtful in patriarchal Somalia. Mohamed reports from Mogadishu.
Leading up to Somalia's February elections, Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble vowed to women leaders that nearly a third of seats in parliament would be reserved for female lawmakers.
The Prime Minister has promised that he will ensure women are allocated for their 30% quota. With sincerity, the Prime Minister vows to solicit support of clan elders and all stakeholders to realise this dream for women's political representation.
But Somalia's women activists remain skeptical that the male-dominated clans who will use lawmakers in the indirect election will follow the government's lead. Jawahir Barkab is chairwoman of Banadir Women Organization. She says Somali male leaders ignoring the importance of women's input has had clear costs.
Men have killed each other, destroyed our country, and still cannot agree. Women realize it's their turn to show leadership, beginning with a 30% quota in both houses of parliament. We need to gain the 6% held by the various clans. Our worry is that it will be difficult to gain those added seats and fully make it 30% as promised.
Somalia's women leaders note that mothers and wives have played a key role in reconciling communities torn by years of conflict as the backbone of family and society.
Women actually make up more than 50% of the population, and they deserve the right to equal representation in the executive and legislative arms of government. The reasons why we are stuck at 30% are cultural. Women's rights are a new phenomenon in Somali culture, but women deserve more seats.
Whether or not Somalia's clan leaders agree will be made clear in the February elections. Mohamed for VOA News, Mogadishu.
The kidnapping recently of 15 sailors is just the latest of piracy, which has been on the rise in West Africa's Gulf of Guinea. But who are the pirates? Why are there more attacks? And what is being done about it? David Doyle, ask me.
Pirates have been stepping up attacks in West Africa's Gulf of Guinea, most recently killing one sailor and kidnapping 15 from a Turkish container ship. But who are the pirates? Why have attacks increased, and what is being done about it? Experts say the pirates come from Nigeria's turbulent Niger Delta, a region that produces the bulk of the country's petroleum but is also underdeveloped, scarred by pollution, and has high unemployment. Last year's oil price crash and Nigeria's second recession in 5 years have worsened the economic hardship. Illegal activities such as oil theft and piracy are a lure for those desperate for money, and the creeks that snake through the swampy region provide an escape route and place to hide kidnapped crew. Those who once stole cargo or siphoned oil have also discovered that companies will pay large sums in ransom. The International Maritime Bureau has tracked a steady increase in kidnappings over recent years, and during 2020, pirates in the Gulf seized 130 seafarers in 22 separate incidents, accounting for all but 5 of those taken at sea worldwide. The Gulf of Guinea borders 20 countries and is a key route for everything from soda to steel, in a region that relies heavily on imports. Saturday's attack will likely increase pressure on Nigeria to do more. It has an initiative known as Deep Blue to develop maritime surveillance and security, and last year secured its first conviction under a new anti-piracy law. There's also the Yaoundé Code, established in 2013 between 25 countries in the region to coordinate on piracy and other crimes. But most countries in the area ban international navies or armed private security from their waters. Foreign navies such as France, Spain and Italy already patrol the region's international waters, but Shipping Trade Association BIMCO says there's an urgent need for a coordinated international law enforcement operation.
David Doyle of Reuters filed that report. Most marriages in Zimbabwe are customary rather than legal unions that, if ended by divorce or death, leave the women empty-handed. But a court ruling last year granted women the rights to equal property if the marriage is registered. Columbus Mavunga reports.
When 39-year-old Juliet Gwenere's customary marriage of 12 years ended in 2016, she was left with 5 children to care for and no property or support from her ex-husband. She was forced to move in with her mother in Chitungisa town southeast of Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Gwenere once had 3 daughters not to make the same mistake she made when they get married.
Men will not give you anything. They'll just say you just walk out like the way that you came. You came with nothing, so you're just going to go back with nothing. So at least if you stand on your 2 feet, if you've gone to school, if you're empowered, if you've gone to school, if you've got a job and everything, and I don't think any man can actually say you can go with nothing.
Most marriages in Zimbabwe are customary unregistered unions that give no legal protection or inheritance rights to women if the union ends. A Zimbabwe Supreme Court ruling last year granted women the right to equal property if the marriage is registered. The legal rights group Women Lawyers of Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, says they are noticing more women becoming aware of their rights since the change in law.
Most of our clients who visited our offices expressed their confidence in the judicial system, especially with regards to their right to protection by the law, which is a constitutional right. They even expressed that they've got the right to equality now with their male counterparts.
But rights advocates say women, especially in the countryside, need to be educated on the importance of marriage registration.
We have a lot of work cut out for us, or civil society, gender equality advocates need to continue with advocacy. We need to engage with the lawmakers. We need to engage with judges in terms of the promotion of women's rights. We need to engage them in terms of judicial activism or even interpretation of some of the normative frameworks that are out there that promote women's rights.
While Zimbabwe's wheels of justice turned too slowly for women like Gwenere, there is at least a more hopeful future for equality and legal protections for her daughters. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Chitungwiza, Zimbabwe.
Human Guinea worm cases in 6 African countries dropped to 27 in 2020, about 50% less than what was recorded in 2019, despite COVID-19 cases, according to the Carter Center. In Chad, cases dropped to 36 from the 48 recorded in 2019, the most significant decline for a single nation. Dr. Kashef Ijas, Carter Center Vice President of Health Programs, says the Central African country's significant decline in cases is attributed to recommitted country and community efforts, innovation, and aggressive science-based interventions. Ethiopia recorded 11 cases of human Guinea worm disease, while South Sudan, Angola, Mali, and Cameroon recorded 1 case each in 2020. Tanzanian President John Magufuli is decrying vaccines and says he is not planning a lockdown in his country because God will protect people from COVID-19. Maureen Anthony has this report.
Tanzania's President John Magufuli has dismissed the benefits of vaccines and said no lockdown is planned in his country, as God will protect the people from COVID-19. Speaking in Western Tanzania on Wednesday, Magufuli claimed homespun precautions such as steam inhalation were better than vaccines. Vaccines are not good, he said, adding that if they were, quote, the white man would have brought vaccines for HIV and AIDS. His views contradict global scientific consensus and advice from the World Health Organization. Africa is currently struggling to secure enough vaccines for countrywide inoculation programs for its 1.3 billion people, while wealthier parts of the world have reportedly stockpiled surplus doses running into the hundreds of millions. Magufuli's speech is not the first time he has courted controversy during the coronavirus pandemic. His government has drawn criticism for its secretive response, and the president has previously asked Tanzanians to pray the coronavirus away.
Maureen Anthony of Reuters filed that report. Britain reached the grim milestone this week of 100,000 coronavirus deaths, making it one of the worst affected countries in the world. Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
86-year-old Gordon Bonner says he is lost in a hinterland of despair and desolation. It's 9 months since Muriel, his wife of 63 years, died from COVID-19. He was called to her bedside for the final moments.
And I sat for the next hour and watched Muriel drown in her own body fluids. It's the most harrowing experience of my life, and it will haunt me. And I'll tell you why. Such was her fight for oxygen that she was sucking at the air and I can still see her face now, and her lips formed a perfect circle as if she was sucking through a straw.
A haunting account of loss and grief, emotions that have touched families across the country. Britain Tuesday became the first European country to report 100,000 coronavirus deaths. 25,000 of those have occurred in the past 3 weeks. It now has the highest coronavirus death rate per capita in the world. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Wednesday he shared the nation's grief.
I and the government take full responsibility for all the actions we've taken during this pandemic to fight this disease. And yes, Mr. Speaker, there will indeed be a time when we must learn the lessons of what has happened.
Johnson announced an extension of school closures and the enforced quarantine of travellers arriving from high-risk countries. Critics say he's done too little, too late.
The Prime Minister was slow into the first lockdown last March. He was slow in getting protective equipment to the front line, slow to protect our care homes, slow on testing and tracing, slow into the second lockdown in the autumn, slow to change the Christmas mixing rules, slow again into this third lockdown.
Many scientists blame underinvestment in the National Health Service.
We suffered from not having an adequate public health infrastructure in this country. We didn't get test, trace and isolate right, and that's still a big challenge for this country. So keeping a lid on infections by effective testing, tracing, and then encouraging people to isolate is really important. And we didn't get border control right.
While Britain leads Europe in coronavirus deaths, it is way ahead in its vaccination programme. Close to 7 million people have received their first vaccine doses.
And it should mean that come March time, we're in a much stronger position in terms of being able to review the current lockdown restrictions.
But there are growing concerns of a vaccine shortage. Drug firms AstraZeneca and Pfizer warned the European Union this week of delays as production systems are scaled up to meet demand. The EU has threatened to block exports of vaccines produced in Europe. Meanwhile, the British government says the public should be prepared for further bad news.
Unfortunately, we're going to see quite a lot more deaths over the next few weeks before the effects of the vaccines begin to be felt.
So, tragically, thousands more families will have to endure the grief of losing loved ones before their time. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
We would like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, man's best friends are back in the White House after a break in the long-time tradition. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54. Florida is cracking down to prevent non-state residents from receiving the COVID-19 vaccine after many people got the shot ahead of Florida residents. The vaccine rollout in Florida, as in other states, has faced problems in large part because of vaccine supply shortages. Lilia Anisimova in Miami has this story, narrated by Eloise.
Over 1.2 million people have received COVID-19 vaccines in Florida. The vaccine is free and can be given at special vaccination points, large malls, nursing homes, supermarkets, and pharmacies.
Not only was Florida the first state in the nation to vaccinate more than 500,000 seniors, but we are rapidly approaching reporting 1 million vaccinations just to Florida seniors.
Up until recently, it had been easy to qualify. A document with the date of birth was enough. But now, those who want to get vaccinated will need to prove they are Florida residents. The reason for the new requirement is the result of the new data from the State Health Department, showing that 39,000 vaccine recipients live outside Florida. Exceptions are made, however, for medical workers, seasonal residents, and property owners. The decision of local authorities to allow vaccinations only to Florida residents was met with mixed responses.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because until we're all vaccinated, nobody's safe. It's as simple as that, really. So it's the wrong decision.
I agree totally. They need to.
Yeah, I would say so too.
You know, I'm vaccine if each one lives in a state. That's your residence. So if you want, get it to talk to your congressman, senator, mayor, whomever, and try to get it, and push it there. But it's true, we don't have enough over here because we have a lot of people that come to Miami and they want to do it. And this is not tourism, this is for our lives.
The reason for the change is that, like in many states, there just isn't enough vaccine in Florida to go around. Until the supply meets the demand, state officials will restrict who can get the vaccine. Those seeking to get the COVID-19 shot in Florida will now have to provide 2 forms of identification, one of which can prove they're a state resident. For Lilia Anisimova in Miami, Florida, Eloise, VOA News.
Electric taxi service No Peer Ride is set to expand in Kenya's capital, helping to reduce emissions from Nairobi's notorious traffic. Environmental experts say electric vehicles are a welcome step toward preventing health problems in Africa's growing cities, but more needs to be done. Rod Almondorf reports from Nairobi.
Kenyan taxi driver Charles Kaloki says switching to an electric vehicle with Finnish ride-hailing service No Peer Ride has been a boon for his pocketbook. No Peer Ride's parent company, EcoRent Oy, launched in Kenya in 2018 and has charging stations that give free power for their drivers.
You can make better money out of this than paying for fuel every other corner of this town that you visit.
No Peer Ride, which means fast ride in Finnish, plans to expand its fleet of rented electric taxis from 30 to 100 by the end of this year. While the high cost of electric cars, about double that of fuel burners, remains a deterrent for buying, founder Juha Suojanen says the demand is only growing.
I think that in the future it's not going to be only Nokia that is importing these electric cars. There will be other people that will be buying these cars and more of them coming to the market.
Nokia is competing against more than 11,000 fuel-driven taxis in Nairobi. The United Nations Environment Programme UNEP says most cars in Kenya used imports from Japan with high emission levels. The World Health Organization says automobile pollution causes at least 5,000 deaths per year in Kenya.
We see increased cases of congestive obstructive pulmonary diseases. We see many triggers of asthma, and all these can be alluded to the air pollution that is happening along our highways.
Environmental experts say switching to electric taxis will help reduce air pollution. But Kenya also needs better public transport and a ban on high-emission vehicles.
They will then have to meet some minimum standard.
which can already result in reductions of emissions depending on the pollutant between 70 and 90% per vehicle.
Meanwhile, Nairobi will slowly see more electric cars plying its roads as chariots of change. Ruud Elmendorf for VOA News, Nairobi.
With the Biden presidency, pets are back in the White House after a break in the long-time tradition during his predecessor's time in office. Eleanor Wolf has this story, also narrated by Eloise.
The gray-haired man in the background is President Joe Biden at an animal shelter 2 years ago. Back then, he was a former vice president and just another potential dog owner. He picked a young German shepherd named Major. A change from President Donald Trump's time at the White House, when it was no dogs allowed.
Thank you. How would I look walking a dog on the White House lawn? Would that be...
Before Trump, first families had pets for a century and a half. But after all these years, Major is different. He's the first pet at the White House adopted from an animal shelter. In this case, the Delaware Humane Association, or DHA.
Major came to us when a person in the community reached out to DHA, and they had 6 puppies, 6 German Shepherd puppies, and they were not doing well. They were sick, so they were concerned about them, and they came to us. We knew right away that they were lethargic and not well, so we knew that they needed some intensive medical care.
After the puppies recovered, the shelter posted video of them on social media, where they captured the attention of Biden's daughter. It so happened, Biden was looking for a friend for his other dog, Champ. Now, Major and Champ share an Instagram page, 46 dogs.
Major Biden, if you're watching, it's a real honor, sir.
To celebrate, the Delaware Humane Association organized a Zoom party, calling it a variation of the word inauguration.
Welcome, everyone, to the first ever inauguration celebration.
Vixen, how do you feel about the first shelter dog making it to the White House? Blue, are you excited about Major's inauguration? Tinkerbell, there's a rumor going around that the Bidens are looking to adopt a cat. Will that be you?
CBS reports the Bidens are also bringing a cat to the White House.
Biden has talked a lot about unity, about wanting to heal us and bring us together and to sort of repair the political divide. I think that's a tall order. But if he can bring cat people and dog people together, it's a start, right? That, I think, would definitely be easier than uniting current Republican Party and the current Democratic Party.
For now, Champ and Major are getting comfortable in their new home, bringing barking and tail wagging back into the White House. For Eliana Wolf in Delaware, Anna Rice, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us in Washington, thank you for watching.